that could be a sign and a symbol of resilience for Haiti once again to rise above the ashes. I'll turn it over to my esteemed colleague, a luminary in his field. He is a living legend and a part of American history, not just African American history, but American history. And he's also an ally for the Haitian people. He's not Haitian, although many people have addressed him in Creole and French today. He is a Southern gentleman from South Carolina, and I'll turn it over to Major General Arnold Fields.
Thank you. I tend to like to stand when I speak, but can you hear me? First of all, everyone, thank you. I want to thank Mabel and Fitz for informing me of this forum today and inviting me to be a part of it. In fact, I will say I did not know that the organization existed, but I know now that I am well acquainted with many of your interests, to include Haiti, which is, I think, the principal reason I've been asked to be here with you today. So I hope that what I have to say, it's going to be brief to maintain our conversation within the time frame. But I do hope that you carry something away, and I also hope that I carry something away from you in the dialogue that I hope will ensue as we move through this conversation. In terms of my background, I am from the state of South Carolina, next door. The first state I ever visited was Georgia, and the first city in another state in which I visited was the city of Savannah. I would eventually join the military after having served briefly as a high school teacher, and I was drafted into the military. I did not volunteer. I was drafted, but I did volunteer to spend about half of my life in the United States Marine Corps, because it was an environment with which I could relate, because I like discipline. I'm not an authority of it. I'm just saying that I like to know left and right limits and laterals and so forth. I am interested in a secure nation. In fact, I'm interested in secure nations around the world. We have arrived at a point in our lives as humanity that we have to interrelate with each other if there's going to be any security for any one of us. So this dialogue that you have put together here today, I think well fits within that context. I was stationed right here in Atlanta when I was a young officer. I came here as a captain, Marine Corps captain officer, 1979. I left in 1982, and really enjoyed it. I lived in Ashworth, which then was about a 35-minute drive from Ashworth, where I lived, to my office in downtown Atlanta. And of course, speaking of progress and the growing of cities, that trek right now would probably take about how long? Yeah, a long time. But I'm not complaining. We are a growing nation. Nations around the world are growing. And that is one of the reasons I think you're here. Haiti wants to grow. It is an independent nation as far as I understand it. It has the capacity to be greater than it is. And circumstances have come to bear upon Haiti that have turned out to be red lines for a nation that I personally feel can be a lot better than what it is today. But one of my principles is that before I reach into elsewhere for help, I want to make sure that I've done everything that I can for myself. And as a commanding officer and a commanding general of several large military bases, where multiple families, Marines, and other servicemen and women and civilians lived, I have always told them that my capacity as a commanding general of a base, and I would say Hawaii, one of the bases, in the Marine Corps context that I commanded, I would tell my families, my Marines, my sailors, and anyone else under my charge on the facility over which I had command, that your first duty is to take care of yourself. That shocks some people. That we are asking them to first take care of yourself. But we don't want to live in a world where the first consideration of any one of us is for someone else to come to our rescue. Our world is growing too fast, and we do not have the resources to individually attend to a world of whatever it is right now, 7 or 8 billion people. We are going to have to first think about taking care of ourselves. So I'm raised up in a poor family in South Carolina. We are a rural family on a small farm. My daddy made about $35 a week. I just spent that much money on a lift to the facility. So it's expensive to live, and we have to first think about taking care of ourselves. So the comments that I make today will be born out of that philosophy. A lot of it going back to when I was a child, raising up poor in South Carolina. But I'm very pleased to say that this nation, the United States of America, as much as we can complain about it, it has lifted me up. And as a result of that, that's one of the reasons I'm privileged to stand before you here today. So I want to see Haiti do better. And I've been in a conversation with these two distinguished academics, practitioners, and leaders for quite some time now. And I don't say that I will have any answers. I can provide commentary, and I can listen to what others say, and maybe out of that might come the synergy, the synergistic effect of that might come solutions for places that are under stress, such as Haiti. So later in my career, I first was assigned to duties that caused me to go to very strange places, even stranger than those in which I was raised or any other in which I may have been exposed in my life. But early on, I found myself in Afghanistan, long before I became the Special Inspector General, U.S. Special Inspector General for Afghanistan. I was commanding officer of all of our Marines that guarded our embassies and consulates in North Africa and the Middle East, all the way from Morocco out to Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, all of those very fine places that I have spent quite a bit of my time in. And I realized at that point in my life, which was after several years in the United States Marine Corps, of what I could do, that our world is a dangerous place. It is getting no less dangerous in my mind as I see things as it is right now today. So a lot of work needs to be done among all of humanity. And so why am I here today? I look back at a famous point. It may ring a bell for some of you. The point for it was a gentleman named John. Have you ever heard of him? Okay. Well, he was popular in English literature. He was a cleric. He was basically a so-called good man. And he had a philosophy which is largely expressed through his poems. So one of his key points was, and one to which I can relate. Why are we here as a group today? Why are we concerned about Haiti, Afghanistan, Iraq, and all other challenged nations of our world today? John Donne said, we are all part of mankind. here today. So let me cut to the chase. I was shocked when 2, maybe even 3 years ago, I engaged in conversation, sincere conversation with the Haitian diaspora regarding Haiti. In fact, in 2011, I was invited to travel to Haiti. This was in the aftermath of the 2010 earthquake. We went down there, 3 of us, under the royal umbrella of the National Academy of Public Administration, of which I am triggered now to be a fellow and have been for the past several years. But they wanted to know the extent to which the nations that said they would provide funding to Haiti in the aftermath of that tremendous earthquake in, I believe, January of 2010, I believe, and the extent to which they were actually providing the resources, the money, the billions of dollars that they pledged, commensurate with the reconstruction and devastation otherwise in Haiti. And we found that there was a lot of talk on the front end from various and sundry nations, but the money itself was not coming in at the rate everyone expected. And we wrote on that. But it was my eye-opening entrance, if you will, into the nation of Haiti. That was my only visit there, even though I've had dialogue, various and sundry dialogues about it since then. But, we need to work together as individuals, communities, and nations to address the greater challenges of our world. But I was shocked when, more recently, I learned that the informal entities of Haiti had essentially taken over the formal governmental structure of Haiti. And not just that, that people were being murdered, many of whom, as I understand it, indiscriminately, and that the government to which I am privileged in the nation of the United States of America did not exist in Haiti. And we live in the same hemisphere. How could that be when I'm being sent as a military person all the way 10 time zones away from here to help address problems in other nations? My growing implication is, in this hemisphere, we should do a better job of attending to our own needs. Before we send one dollar elsewhere, we should ensure that our own neighborhood is being taken care of. And so that's another reason why I'm interested in resolving the challenges that Haiti faces right now. After I retired from the United States Marine Corps, I received a call from the White House. I was not a political person. No one ordered me anything. I have not campaigned for anybody, but I was sitting at my desk at the Africa Center for Strategic Studies, institute under the Secretary of the Defense of the United States of America. I was sitting at my desk, and I received a call directly from the White House. And that call led to an appointment of some guy named Ronald Lee as the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan and Reconstruction. It was not an organization that existed prior to the call that I received, but there had been legislation put forth by the Congress of the United States as of January of 2008 that mandated that the President appoint a Special Inspector General for Afghanistan and Reconstruction. Now, I don't want to be too winded here and tell you how things work, but in the federal government of the United States, accountability is a very important aspect of keeping our nation together and ensuring its continuity in all that we must do in order to see our nation survive. So within the federal government, there are over 70 standing inspectors general. There's one for every institution within the federal government. And then there are special inspectors general. Those are few and far between. They are established when a situation that is quite unique comes up, and U.S. taxpayer dollars at great amounts are being provided to those entities in support thereof. And the powers to be feel that the existing standing inspector general within the federal government are not sufficient in order to address these other unique challenges. So the law of the United States allows the president to appoint such an individual. And so I was privileged to be that person for Afghanistan Reconstruction. I left that work quite some time ago, and the gentleman in there has been in there ever since I left as the official presidentially appointed Inspector General. He's written, I believe the count now is 64 quarterly reports on the status of Afghanistan. Those reports go to everybody. You know, you can go on your phone or your laptop right now, and you can pull up every report that the Inspector General, U.S. Inspector General of Afghanistan has written since the office was stood up in year 2008. Is when that office was stood up, around September, October of 2008. I reviewed the very first report that I wrote. It's still there. It was a short report because it was the first one that we were able to put together. But in those reports, I find that we don't need more information. Everything that I feel that we need to address issues in Afghanistan, in Iraq, both places where we have spent $1 trillion or more, as well as in Haiti, where we spent not enough to bring Haiti up to a level at which it can be much more sustainable as a nation. The staff of the Special Inspector's General Office, smart people, very informed, very experienced, and they write outstanding reports. My name is assigned to many of them. Of course, I did not write the complete report. My name is on it because I was the Inspector General, Special Inspector General. But I had a lot of help from a lot of people, and we would travel to dangerous places in Afghanistan in order to ensure that we gathered the right information for the report, because the reports themselves, once again, went to everybody. We were required by law to publish the reports not only in English, but in the widely spoken languages of Afghanistan. Now, why am I saying it? This is all about transparency. If we're going to be successful as individuals and nations, we have to be transparent, especially when we are fulfilling duties that are considered in the interest of the general public. So that is what the Special Inspector does. I can probably talk more to what the Inspector General has done so far in matters that he has discovered or disclosed related to Afghanistan as we move through the rest of our sessions that do. But I just want to give you a broad perspective of all the fields I work, my military service, and any of the previous advice or counsel that I may have shared with my colleagues here, and ready to share additional commentary, not solutions, commentary with you as this dialogue continues. Thank you.
Thank you, General. Thank you, General, for your comments. And I think transparency is very important, especially in the public life. Uh, and I think this is something that is lacking, uh, especially when it comes to Haiti. But Haiti, as I discussed with you earlier, Haiti is not alone. What's going on in Haiti is not simply the deed operations. We have partners. We have partners, as they say, partners in crime. For more than 22 years now, since I think 2001, Haiti, you can say Haiti has been under put up to because we have a core group in Haiti that's made up of the most powerful countries in the world. And Haiti doesn't make any, the leaders of Haiti, they do not make decisions without the approval of this of the core group. So the destruction, the way Haiti has been reduced is not simply bad leaders, bad administrations on the part of the Haitians. That's simply something that I feel it's necessary to share with you at this moment. And thank you for your comments. And now I'll turn over to Lebel. I think you have a presentation.
I'm going to try to incorporate some of the matters that you touched upon, Major General, because I think that they're very important points. So first to Mr. Clairville's point about, well, who's to blame, right? I think that, sorry? There's enough blame to be shared by, I think there's enough to go around. Today, we're not really focused on blame rather than what are the potential solutions, what are the potential recommendations, what can we do so that not only our voices can be heard, right? And we do that in a number of ways. We do that here as members of the diaspora through voting. We do that through lobbying and advocacy. And I really want to focus my remarks on what it is that we can do based on kind of the state of play here and now. So first, I'd like to just highlight some definitions. I think it's important to call a spade a spade. And too often, when we talk about resiliency, we talk about Haitians, and I'm as Haitian as Futai and as American as apple pie. So when I talk about Haitians, I don't separate myself. I am Haitian, and it's not defined by being born there, right? Under both constitutions, I'm as Haitian as Futai. So when we talk about resilience and Haitians being resilient, I think that's a bit of a misnomer. Resilience, a true definition of resilience really refers to adaptation. It's about robustness. It's about observing early warnings and being able to change circumstance. I think that Haitians, both here, outside of Haiti and in Haiti, have dealt with so much trauma over the years. And this collective trauma is not being addressed. And at the same time, you have the government that is derelict in their duty. They have a duty, the government has a duty to care for its citizens, to provide security, but also to create innovation. We had the opportunity in the first panel to hear about how government, nonprofit, and business are working together intentionally. That hopefully we can take that element, that level of intentionality, and also bring that to Haiti as well. So what we have in Haiti oftentimes is we're not intentional about our efforts, or the efforts are in small pockets. We have these pockets of hope that are being supported by many of you in this room, diaspora organizations, Haitian hometown organizations who are doing wonderful work, large institutions. But one of the things that I would encourage is connectivity. And we can also have more connectivity and more robustness in terms of security, both national security, so that we can create long-term stability. So earlier, through the lens, I see, Haiti through community service. I know Haiti in crisis. My relationship to Haiti is about embracing my identity. And I've been a first responder. I'm also an entrepreneur. And I also interact with Haitian migrants in the U.S. and Dominican Republic. During COVID, I spent a lot of time in the Dominican Republic. And I'll share with you that there are people in the Dominican Republic who want to see Haiti thrive. Having met with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, he welcomed us. And one of his first concerns, is it Fernandez? Minister Fernandez. Alvarez, excuse me. One of his first concerns was the idea of gangs coming into Dominican Republic and disrupting the development and creating havoc. And I was there when the first time that they closed the border. And there was an honesty and authenticity that was there when I met with a number of government officials there. And there's a willingness to partner as well. But you have to have something to connect to. In the same way, I think that there are municipalities, part of our group, Haiti Pathway Forward, we have Pastor Maurice, who works with the state of New Jersey very closely. He's the lead of the Haitian Pastors Protestant Association. And whenever there's an issue in Haiti, the governor's office is quick to call and say, hey, what can we do to help? Or the mayor calls, what can we do? The United States and other international partners. What are we waiting for? Going back to your quote about if a person dies, you know, James Dunn, any person's death is a loss to all of us. Is it really? Our Black and brown sisters are dying every day. They are hungry. We are dealing with a famine. You have critical infrastructure, whether it's the ports. You can't go to church. You know, you are a hostage in your own home and in your own community. And then later on, you're displaced by the gangsterization. But the gangs that we often talk about are the young people with guns. But we do not speak about the gangsters who are in suits and ties. Thank you. Thank you very much. There were several efforts, and I want to acknowledge our partners in NEON and our faith-based communities. We have Bishop Greg Toussaint from Florida and other pastors who came together to advocate for an Anti-Collusion and Transparency Act. And guess what happened? Despite the efforts, when it came to the legislator, we didn't have it. There were not enough votes. There wasn't enough support for it. What it called for was the Department of State to produce a report to identify the gangs as well as the connections between public officials, business people who have relationships with the gangs, and make that available on an annual basis along with recommendations from the U.S. and the government of Haiti. And it didn't move forward. That was in 2023. So we talk about accountability mechanisms. There are not that many accountability mechanisms that are safeguarding our tax-paying dollars when it goes down to Haiti. They've created them in Afghanistan, they've created them in other places, but why not Haiti? So I think that's an opportunity that exists. Number two, with the impetus of an upcoming election that's coming up in Haiti, there is talk of constitutional changes. That's another opportunity for the diaspora to engage and to inform what that will look like. These are questions that you would ask from a public administration standpoint. But are we focused? Our leaders, are they focused on policy? And if so, let's ask the tough questions tomorrow. We will have a representative for the government. What is the mechanism for the diaspora? How can we engage when it comes to investment? How can we engage when it comes to security? How can we engage when it comes to knowledge transfer? I hope that they will have answers for us tomorrow, but we cannot be afraid to ask the tough questions. What kind of transparency is being built? How much money is being spent on Studebaker, on this recent group? We also have talent when it comes to military, police, law enforcement. HAITIAN, a Haitian American law enforcement organization, has worked in Haiti and training Haitian National Police. But is the problem that we have here and now a police issue or a military issue? That is a question that needs to be asked. How can you protect your land, your airspace, your borders without a military? Haiti does have a military. It's 1,700 people strong. But do they have tanks? Do they have helicopters? Do they have the equipment, surveillance and drones and other technology that can be leveraged? Let's say that they don't. But these resources are not available to Haiti at the moment because of the LEAHI Act. And so one of the things that we are promoting and we're advocating for in this new administration that has recently won the election is allowing for the exemption of the LEAHI Act, which prevents the United States from providing any money to the Haitian military. The Haitian National Police is known for their inefficiencies. I'm sure, they're well-meaning, great people. But consider this. At the academy, you have the cadets washing their clothes by hand. You have them sleeping in quarters that most people wouldn't. So as we look at our institutions, we also have to look at professionalizing them as well and looking at how we can create public partnerships as well. Public-private partnerships can be created in any domain. And we have an opportunity today to really support and bring that knowledge transfer, but we need a mechanism. And tomorrow, when perhaps the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Haiti is here, we should be asking what mechanism is in place to engage the diaspora in a meaningful way so that we can have stability in Haiti. You don't put a Band-Aid on an abscess. I know we have many doctors in the room, but if you have a cancer, you have to go to the root of it, right? And we're not dealing with the root cause, which is the lack of economic opportunity, which is the inability of government to provide basic services. And in many spaces outside of Haiti, when government cannot provide these services, you partner with your nonprofit organizations, you partner with your private sector organizations, and you collaborate, and they help fill the gaps. Right now, you have nonprofits and private sector doing things in vacuums. So there needs to be certainly more cohesion as we move forward. I'm going to skip the slides to really focus on just some key things. So instability leads to insecurity. But what does insecurity mean? Is it domestic terrorism? Because we should call a spade by a spade. Like in Afghanistan, the Taliban, where the Taliban has used social media in a way to recruit. The gangs are doing the same thing. People are being terrorized. So should we be using the word instability, which is a misnomer, or should we call a spade a spade? If people are being terrorized, there is a sense of domestic terrorism taking place. If people cannot leave their homes, there's a fear of dying. And now what you have through a forcing mechanism, you also have, what I call that, the Dominican Republic through repatriation are sending their idea to send 11,000 people back every week. What does that mean when someone who is 15 years old, 20 years old, never been to Haiti, don't speak the language, who's going to receive them? They have no money in their pocket. That same individual, that vulnerable individual, can become a potential threat to Haiti. Because once the gangs open their arms and provide food, clothing, and a gun, and it doesn't really take much. There was a video circulating in WhatsApp. There were these two young boys, maybe age 10, who were doing human intelligence, spying for another gang, and they went to another gang's territory. And thankfully, that gang member had it in his heart not to kill them. But what he did was turn them. And he's like, hey, was it $2, Fritz? How much was it, $10? He gave them both 50 cents. And that was all it took for them to turn, for them to now work for another gang member. It only took 50 cents, 50 good, maybe $1. But these children don't have access to healthcare. They don't have access to schools. They don't have after-school programs. So who is there to bridge the gap? Right now, it's the gangs. For them, those two boys, they might see that gentleman as Robin Hood. That person is now a savior. Not only do they give them money, they're providing food, and whatever it is that they ask them to do, they're going to be willing, ready, and able. So can you imagine the 11,000 people that will be going to Haiti on a weekly basis? What does that mean when it comes to gang recruitment? What does that mean when it comes to their lives? No one is making provisions for them. That's another opportunity for the diaspora to step in the gap, right? It's yet another opportunity. Where are the nonprofit organizations who are along the borders? We have people on the ground who have voluntarily left Dominican Republic because they feared for their lives, and they've gone back to Haiti to now start over. And they're looking to advocate for those who are coming. But there are a lot of great organizations that are doing good work. So I think we need to be strategic as we execute our plans, as we execute these great ideas that we have, and really work together. There's a lot of great talent here. We can resolve some of these issues if we put our heads together. We don't have to wait for government. What has waiting for government ever done? Centers that opened up one day. I was talking to a colleague, his name is Jean-Jacques Pierre, who's a maestro and has a orchestra. And there was an issue in a particular place in Haiti, and he called the police precinct, and no one was there. The police met not one single, other than one person he spoke to. The police had gone to the center, the visa center, so that they can get their paperwork so that they could leave the country. So between those who leave the job because they're not getting paid enough, those who immigrate, these numbers have been significantly reduced over the past couple of months. And the military is between 1,200 and 1,700. If you look at these other countries are comparable in terms of population, you'll see that there's significantly more on both ends. How can you fight a fight if you don't have sufficient people? How do you fight the good fight if you don't have sufficient equipment? How do you fight a good fight if you don't have the right strategy, the right knowledge, the equipment in order for you to really create an impact? And is the goal to neutralize the gangs? Because from a military standpoint, I'd like for you to speak to this, Major General. There is an approach, the different approach from police and a different approach from military. Terrorism can be eradicated. Criminality can be eradicated, but is the goal to eradicate it at its root? Because there are other social programs that would have to be developed as a result. And I'll leave you with a few things before I get back, is that Dominican Republic, with a comparable population, has 3 times more police on staff compared to Haiti. 58,800 more military personnel compared to Haiti. They're primarily focused on illegal immigration and refugees. Who are we talking about? Okay. But there's an opportunity. There's opportunity in crisis. And the future state is leveraging technology. The future state is cybersecurity. The future state is looking at our human capital. Those who are migrating are talented. What are their skill sets? How could they be put to work? We don't have a Peace Corps in Haiti. We don't have the equivalent of a Peace Corps. We don't have an Army Reserve. Like, there are people who would voluntarily go to Haiti. I know many Americans, Haitian Americans, who would want to serve, but is Haiti ready to receive us? And tomorrow, again, you have an opportunity to ask the tough questions. What kind of mechanism can be put in place to support the knowledge transfer so that we can, as a diaspora, can create more impact? And we also have to leverage our global community stakeholders, our international community. Eastern Europe relies heavily on the diaspora for transformation of their economy. The African Union has declared the diaspora as the 6th region of Africa, and they're playing a useful role in capacity building. We shouldn't be relegated to just remittances, right? There's so much more that we can do, but we need a mechanism to engage. And lastly, a future state would be economic security through innovation, a tech-enabled growth, regional cooperation and geopolitics, not only with neighboring Dominican Republic, but Jamaica, and really addressing transnational crime. It's guns, it's organs. There's a lot that is flowing in and out of the borders. And when you don't have control of your borders, your airspace, and your maritime, anything goes, and that's the reality in Haiti. So drug trafficking, arms trafficking, trafficking of children, all of these things are happening and are not being talked about on a day-to-day basis. And when you consider, for some, the assassination of the president, Jovenel Moïse, some consider it a hit. Where is the restitution? What's happening? What's come out of, the police officers who were guarding him at the time? Are they still on payroll? Are they in jail? Like, what is our story? Our story is more than just crisis. So I really implore you, we need to tell our stories. We need to ask the tough questions. We need to engage in a different way. We need to be strategic, and we also need to work together and coalesce around what we have in common. And I think every person here They want security, they want prosperity for Haiti. And do not allow other people to divide us. And a message for DC. When we talk about Haitian-led solutions, it excludes Haitian Americans. How many times have we gone to the State Department, we've gone to the White House, and we've asked, and we've pleaded, and we've implored for different policy? Now we have to demand it. We have to demand it. And I'm a nonpartisan group, so we work with everyone. We'll continue to work with our stakeholders on the Democratic side, the Republican side, independents, anyone who has an interest in hearing about Haiti so we can advance things. And I think that's an opportunity, again, for the diaspora to engage in meaningful change through policy development and legislation, not just here in the US, but also in parallel for the other partners in Canada and Mexico. And that we shouldn't just rely on the United States because the belts are being tightened. There will be changes in terms of immigration. We need to look at all of our international partners and see what they can offer. And my appeal to the Haitian government is please leverage the Haitian diaspora. Please leverage us. Use us, don't abuse us. But we need to be at the table in every sector because we have something to contribute that's more than remittances. And it's not sufficient that you have a handful of diaspora, people from the diaspora who are in ministerial positions. That is not institutional change. That's not lasting change. We have to be at every conversation where conversations are being had. And what is considered a critical mass? It's not having one member of the diaspora at the table. We should have members at the table who represent institutions so they can go back to their constituency and we can support or actually lend a hand to crafting what the vision will be over the next 5, 10, 25 years in Haiti so that one day we can truly be safe, secure, and stable. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you. Well, you have heard Miguel made a plea and some recommendations, some suggestions, talking about the role diaspora can play and the plea to the Haitian government to include the diaspora. Oftentimes we complain because we feel left out. And this is a new era. This is a new day. It's a new beginning. Haitians tend to be largely Democrats. Now we have a Republican administration. So let's see what we can do with this administration. And I think we are at the crossroads of seeing a new set of policies at the Beltway in Washington, D.C. I think we in the diaspora can play a role to have a paradigm shift because for too long Haiti has suffered. We are right there in the back of the United States. Well, like the general said, we have to take care of our neighbors. And then we feel that our neighboring countries, $6 million, $600 million in pledge for this political impasse. We don't see the money. They pledge to send troops to Haiti to give us some police and military assistance. I think Jamaica only sent 24 people. Where are our friends? And we all have a role to play in that, and I think when we talk to one another, I think those messages will go to the ears and of the leaders, so-called our friends. Major General, I have a few questions for you that I share with I take from some people before your presentation. How do you see your military experience, particularly as it relates to what's going on in Haiti? What can you, when I was talking to you earlier, I said, Inspector General, is it only apply to countries where you have military conflict? In a situation like Haiti, can the Haitian diaspora made a request from the United States to appoint an inspector general?
Thank you. Does everyone understand the question? Can you hear me?
Do you understand the question? Okay, thank you. Because what I understand about the Inspector General, they're there after a disaster or something, whether if it's man-made disaster or natural disaster, they're there to participate in the reconstruction.
Number of those funds, or the amount of those funds, there are not necessarily established thresholds, but when you begin to speak of funding in the hundreds of millions of dollars, then that gives cause to the American people to have an independent element appointed to provide independent oversight of how that money is being spent. So for an inspector general such as the position I was privileged to hold, we did basically three things. We looked for waste, we looked for fraud, and we looked for abuse. And we investigated administratively, we investigated criminally, and we sent folks to the Department of Justice for appropriate adjudication, where such individuals were found culpable in not using federal dollars, your taxpayer dollars and mine, correctly. So in answer to your question, it is not impossible. And but it's possible. But what we really need for Haiti is for some legislation within the context of the Department of State, Department of Defense, to devise a program that will focus on bringing peace to Haiti. And it will take funding, not only from the United States, which wish to do that, but funding in a much more broad international sense to address the issue. And just to put this in perspective, and I see the sign says we're out of time, and I'll say this and I'll get off the transcript. In the case of Afghanistan, there was 3 categories of money appropriated for Afghanistan. That was a template. That's the same template that was used basically in Iraq as well. And I assume that that'll be the template for Haiti should the issues in Haiti rise to the level of funding that the Congress of the United States might recommend, and any other nation that want to participate. But the funding goes into 3 broad categories: security, governance, and development. Those are the 3 broad categories. For Afghanistan, the security aspect of Afghanistan took up most of the front-end funding of the U.S. taxpayers' dollars. But I see that same template perhaps being applied to Haiti, where you've got to provide security in Haiti for any of the other items that you wish to implement, governance and development. You have to have a secure or relatively secure environment in which those matters might take place. And so that's the first hurdle in Haiti, is to bring a level of security that's sufficient enough for private as well as federal intervention. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for your questions. It seems like we're running out of time, and you want to say something? But yeah.
So one of the things that came out of the present administration is that Haiti was designated as being part of the Global Fragility Act. So this is something where there's an opportunity, there's a 10-year plan that's been proposed. I think it should actually be expedited. We should look to see how we can get diaspora representatives or groups as part of this working group, so that it can advance. So the Global Fragility Act, I think, is a huge opportunity where security, governance, and development can be explored. We also have the Caribbean Basin Act and a number of others. So the Global Fragility Act is our opportunity. For those who haven't been to Haiti in a while, Haiti in some respects is even worse than 2010 when the earthquake hit it. So I think it's something to consider. While there are a lot of opportunities.
The population hungry, do you think they're going to see security if the population is hungry? Because what we don't focus is that the United Nations, the US, AID, everybody, Canada, government say that about half of the population of Haiti is dying, is under food insecurity. But I didn't hear anything about that big priority. Why don't we join our force to at least find a way to plant as much food as we can in the country right now? What is against that? What is against that? If we cannot do this, just to start at that time, people from the Dominican Republic, they will have land to work. You know, that's the model that we are doing. Why cannot we train our force? Not only people from the diaspora, people from Canada, the diaspora, okay? What can we, thank you very much.
First of all, thank you for the question. It's a very good question. But when we talk about security, yes, security has a lot of meanings. We also talk about food security. Food security is also implied. But you have to also understand, when you look at Grenada and the South, they produce food. But they cannot, if you don't have security, you cannot distribute the food. So when we talk about security, we talk about all of it. It's comprised physical security and food security. Now, our organization just shared this information with you. Maybe that will give you at least a little bit of an understanding of what we are doing. We have people at the border trying to recruit some of the expatriates, okay? Because we know while they were in Dominican Republic, they developed a skill set that Haiti needs, okay, for the future. So some of them who were working on the field of agriculture, we are putting together a database of all these people, because as we also working with the farmers in Haiti to do the exact thing that you mentioned earlier. So that's hope. We are working on it. We're not simply talking about bringing troops to Haiti, but you also need security to transport whatever produce to the next, from one place to the other. I don't know if that answers your question.
So it's also about supply chain. I'll say that I'd like to talk to you offline, because there is actually a plan that has been put. Seven other partners. Inventory of land where people can be housed temporarily on private land, because you can't use tents in public places. Doing inventory leveraging technology as people are coming in, whether it's on the iPhone or a tablet, to get their information, understand what their skill sets are, get them connected with social services, and then create opportunities for them to work. There's a lot of the buildings that you see in Dominican Republic are built by Haitians. There's a lot of talent that's leaving Dominican Republic and be leveraged. So farming, agriculture is important, but you also have to look at not only working with partners who have those things available, the security aspect, and how do you get it from point A to point B? That's an issue of supply chain. So there's going to be an issue of cold storage. So there's a number of things. There was a plan that I could share with you, and I invite you and others because we are working with former former Minister Valzon, who's in Dominican Republic, who is renowned when it comes to Haitian-Dominican relations on this particular initiative. So I'm happy to talk to you offline about it. And to your point about the military, understand that it does cost. But one of the things that Haiti hasn't done, there hasn't been a draft. There hasn't been, through the military, and maybe you can speak to this, you can also develop men of leadership, right, through military training. So I think there's an opportunity as we look at security, as we look at agricultural development and economic development, to also create the next generation of leaders as well. I think there was a question in the back.
That is correct. That is correct. Yes, thank you for that response. Thank you. Thank you so much.
We hear you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. We have another question back here. We're going to take care of this audio.
I can just ask a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So the question is, first of all, thank you for laying out a lot of the potential solutions, but I guess I need more in terms of what those solutions look like to get from being where it is now to where we know it needs to be. I'm not really interested in failed states. I'm not trying to duplicate their efforts. To the extent that there are lessons to be learned from those failed states that we can apply maybe, I'd love to hear those. Us in the diaspora, we took the time out to be here in Atlanta. We care and we want to do something. So to the extent that either or both of you have any input on things that can be used to paint that picture, questions for the people tomorrow, and I know we'll get to those, but I'm tired of asking other people about what to do about our country. If our mother is in trouble, we don't need her to ask us to come and help. We just need to figure out what the plan is. And when I say we, I'm talking about all Haitians within and outside of the diaspora. Sometimes we get into this back and forth with each other of, well, we're waiting on you, we're waiting on you. We ain't got time for that. There's too much going on in Haiti right now. And the reverberations are being felt not just in the DR, not just in this country, but everywhere that Haitians exist. Because it creates a respect issue everywhere. So the question I have for you is, what solutions or what things do you see that we need to be working toward to create more security, not just on the island, but throughout the entire diaspora? Thank you.
I appreciate the question. I'll take a stab at it and I'll turn it over to the major. So first, I would say there are really kind of three priorities. One is advocacy. So the Leading Act, normalizing relationships between the United States and Haiti. That is something that is administrative in nature. Had conversations with a number of different individuals at a high level, be it, Honorable Hakeem Jeffrey, Honorable Reggie Meeks, but getting that administrative hurdle, overcoming that so that that can be normalized. There's no reason why this can't be done within, in short order. Secondly, the crisis through this, I would call forcing mechanism of Dominican Republic, returning Haitians to Haiti. There needs to be a stopgap, and I think there's an opportunity for diaspora and Haitian local organizations to support that, to help them with this transition and to create opportunities, especially along the border. And thirdly, is to coalesce around, if there are willing partners, say, you know what, as we move forward, what is the focus over the next 4 years? We talk about diaspora engagement. What does it really mean and what do we want to see? I think that number one, there's an opportunity for marketplace leaders, creating opportunities to go and do business. Once the security issue is either resolved, and I would say resolved, that's with a caveat. You need to have some semblance of security. You need to be able to pass, go from point A to point B. That may not be the case in the entire country, but it can be done on a localized level, on a regional level. And then look at, from a mapping perspective, who wants to do business in this particular area? What can we share, whether in terms of technology, so that you can create some opportunities? If you're in, let's say you have 10 people, 20 people who are going to be doing business in, give me a, where is, I'm going to go now. What's it? Tourmont, excuse me, my pronunciation isn't the best. But you're doing business in a particular area. Well, what can be shared? This is an opportunity to create a space where you can share intelligence, technology. If you have a camera, I have a camera, creating these spaces where you can share now security information and safety information. There's a lot of tools that can be leveraged so that you can create the ecosystems. Again, we don't have to wait for others outside. We don't have to wait for international community or the government of Haiti. Those are some specific things that can be done very strategically. And again, advocacy on the Lead Act to move it forward so we can have that administrative thing done. Supporting the repatriation of those who are from this DR crisis, because that in itself is going to create more challenges. And then thirdly, how can we support marketplace leaders who are interested in going into Haiti? And I'm happy to talk to you offline.
I don't have very much to add to that. I will go back to our commentary on establishing security. And I think what we are talking here, addressing here, is not unlike the situation in Afghanistan. I see some significant parallels. Who would want to do business in Afghanistan right now with the Taliban in control of the country? The country right now is under the same type of leadership and significant restraints on its people that the country was in when we intervened in Afghanistan subsequent to the 2001 Twin Towers being brought down in New York. And just to reflect on that, the reason we went to Afghanistan, because it was believed that that was a place in which the training and so forth was done to prepare the terrorists that killed 3,000 or more of our U.S. citizens and others in that attack in 9/11. So it's important to establish security in Haiti so that those who would wish to invest in Haiti would be more inclined to do so. Who would want to invest in a country that doesn't have a formal government that is, according to what I've read, that is under control of gangsters? Who would want to submit his or her finances to a situation like that? So that is the first thing I think that needs to be done before much of anything else can be addressed in Haiti. And how do we do that? Are we saying that the diplomatic process has failed? Are we saying that our ability to negotiate with armed men and probably women in Haiti right now isn't going to work? So I think we need to make a concerted effort to address the security thing so that the confidence that the rest of the world may have in Haiti can be reborn, or once had in Haiti might be reborn, so that we can address the food issue and other issues associated with addressing the needs of Haiti's public or people.
Hold on, we have a mic, there's somebody else waiting for questions. When we're done, we'll have some more time for questions.
Yes, can, do you have any other questions?
Yes, we have time for one more question. I think part of the dialogue is that there are, yes, that's you. You're the last person, and we'll get to your question, and then we'll continue the conversation, but in the formal platform, we would have to wrap up. Is that okay? All right, so one more question, all right? I'll make my way over here. Thank you so much for your patience. Yes, this is a great topic to discuss. Your turn. Go right ahead.
Hello, thank you for a really great presentation. You brought up a lot of things that I was just like, yes, yes, figures now about. But my question was really around that cohesion, us as a community collaborating, duplication of work and just making sure that we're efficiently finding the people who are doing this great work, but we're working in alignment with in a strategic way, in the way that you explained. One of the things that I feel like I work a lot with youth who are trying to bring into tech, and you're trying to guide them. And I think about the time it takes for them to understand the ecosystem and how it operates. How are we creating the, I would say, curriculum so that our youth can understand what we're doing in the interim to build up Haiti? Who are these leaders in all these nodes, and allowing them to learn about this at a faster pace so that they can be at the forefront of helping implement these solutions as early as possible. I don't know if those mechanisms already exist, if we, in your explorations, that has been something that's been explored, but how do we make sure, beyond just the historical aspects of Haiti, how are we educated about what's happening now? Who are the leaders now doing the work? And is there enough being done at an institutional level and within our education system, within the diaspora, where we have the most impact, to make sure that our students understand, or our young Haitian students understand, these are the people within our community who are doing effective work, whether it's in the diaspora or in Haiti, and facilitating building those relationships so that we can have impact as soon as possible.
Well, thank you for your question. I think among us here, we have Mabel is the youngest. Mabel can attest to some of the issues that you brought up. But one thing I can tell you, it's incumbent upon each one of us to find our space, to find our vocation, to find our work. You here as a young person because your intention is to find out about your community, about Haiti. So I think it's the work of every one of us. Every one of us. Mabel was born here, but she speaks about Haiti as if she was born here. I think it's incumbent on us to do so. Now we have there are organizations, and I cannot name every one of them, but if you want to reach out, you want to talk to us after that, we can explain to you what we do as an organization and as it relates to young folks in the diaspora. Maybe,
Sure, I want to yield my time because there was a gentleman in the corner on the left who had a question. I'd say shortly. It's there isn't a systematic way to answer your question. I think that's an opportunity for improvement. There are some communities, let's say the Cuban community, FIU has maintained a database of a number of different organizations that are Cuban, right? I can go there as a resource. There are Haitian centers. I don't see that available on their websites when I contact these, let's say, Haitian centers in various metropolitan areas. There are Haitian chambers, Haitian elected officials, there's churches. So there's a lot of different ways to get connected and various events online. So there's no one way that I'm aware of. And I do believe that's an opportunity, especially for those who are in the tech space who might be able to bring some solutions. And I know we have our host here, but there was a gentleman in the corner who had a question, so I'd like to yield my time.
Sure, gladly. That's very kind of you. Yes, sir. Please go ahead and ask a question.
Well, first of all, I'd like to at least congratulate Mabel. Mabel is a person that I've known since she was members, I believe. And it is really amazing that Mabel has become what I call the person who's engaged in terms of trying to build Haiti. Having said that, I'll say quite frankly, Haiti will ultimately be able to be built if those of us in the diaspora continue to follow our national motto, which is Prima Fela Force. We have to be first well organized. Now, I listened quite carefully to the general who mentioned that the American intervention in most countries really to guarantee security and stability. That is so true. However, I will say quite frankly, when you compare Haiti's problems with those of Afghanistan, of Iraq, of Vietnam, of the Middle East, you cannot really compare simply because you have spent a lot of money, close to $40 billion, in trying to rebuild and stabilize this country. Remember that this country was against America. Haiti is not against America. In fact, Haiti is probably a friendly nation. Haiti is very close to you. You are geographically a potential friend, potential partner. Additionally, we have an intimate connection. Our ethnic component happen to be 95% Afro-Caribbean, which is genotypically similar to Afro-American. So we are, in other words, almost like brothers. My feeling is that it will not require $40 billion or $60 billion to help us solve problems today. It only requires that the government, the American government, develop a program that will allow us, the Haitian American diaspora, to really develop our own country. Right now, to be truthful with you, I'm not really comfortable with the new administration because this is the same administration that promotes detention, deportation. And I'm afraid that my people, 200,000 of them who came under the Biden program, will probably face probably discrimination. I don't know if they're going to be mass deportation, but certainly I'm going to wait for that. My personal feeling is that I don't mind deportation, but you know what? I would prefer that you help me secure my country so we can do what we call a willful repatriation. I would like to go back to my country, but a very safe country, and I do believe that the U.S. owes us as a moral obligation to help us. Thank you.
If you don't mind me sharing something with you guys, I think that might be some sort of inspiration. You just have heard or listened to someone I know very well, Dr. Kenizan, gynecologist of New York. And Dr. Kenizan has been able to put a group of doctors and invest of millions and millions of dollars in Haiti, in spite of what's going on in Haiti. They invest in tourism, banking, mining. So the reason why I'm saying that is not really a problem up, but to give you inspiration, to see that this is a gentleman who grew up in New York, came into New York at the age of 13, and then he goes back. That answers the question of engagement. Young people can engage. Not only he invests in Haiti, and he continues to fight for diaspora integration and diaspora investment. And I agree with you, with the gentleman earlier who talked about Port-au-Prince. Oftentimes, I mentioned that on the beginning of my speech. Oftentimes, people talk about Port-au-Prince as if Port-au-Prince is the Republic of Haiti. But we still have a problem. Right now, you can go to the north to invest. You can go to the south, but we need international airport that can connect people from the diaspora to the south. You don't have that. So we still struggle with the idea because remember, Haiti has been centralized. So you do not have it the way you have it in Jamaica. But that's an opportunity for people who are from the South and to have the determination to say, well, ignore Port-au-Prince, let's go directly invest in the South, let's go invest in the North. So we're seeing that happening. We're doing that so far. And thank you for the question.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we'd like to go ahead and applaud our panelists today. Thank you so much for a vibrant discussion. There's a lot of information to be shared, and at this time we'll do a